Dragon Ball Z is not just an anime to me, but a way of life. Goku was my childhood hero, and still is to this very day. In my early years, I attempted to learn martial arts just because I wanted to be as much like Goku as possible. When I got older, I acquired a few Dragon Ball tattoos, and currently, my car has a 4-star Dragon Ball for a shift knob. Many call me a DC fanboy, but in reality, Dragon Ball and Star Wars are part of my very soul and essence. In light of recent drama ongoing with my channel and another channel, I wanted to provide accurate and unbiased information that many Dragon Ball fans were prevented from seeing. If Goku were real, he would want me to reveal the truth and be as unbiased as possible. Where does Dragon Ball Z Scale? Thankfully, unlike comics, the Dragon Ball series makes this very easy to uncover and gauge a very accurate and honest readout of the facts. You see, many scalers have used Koyama's dialogues on Twitter that were often cropped down and not all viewed from the same vantage point. Today, we will reveal some very rare and unseen snapshots of Koyama on Twitter. First, if the topic of if Koyama is reliable as a source or not. He himself says no, and that nobody should listen to him. Many scalers have used Koyama's statements on Twitter to justify their means, while the man himself disagrees that this should ever be done. He says that he does not know the actual history, in that he believes his opinions are not to be considered valid lore answers. Sadly speaking, many uneducated scalers misuse Koyama's statements about Dragon Ball's Afterlife being 4 or 5-dimensional, when that was in reference to what he feels the real Afterlife is, and not the Dragon Ball series Afterlife. Often Dragon Ball scalers with no education in physics or science use science terminology improperly. Goku is a regular and normal 3-dimensional entity within his narrative, just as we are 3-dimensional entities in our universe. Some scalers insist that Goku is 4D and above, often sometimes reaching upward of 6 or 7th dimensional. This cannot be further from the truth and borderlines on pure insanity. For the 3rd-dimensional object to become 4th dimensional, such as a box in this example, a 2D box adds a square and those lines are connected to make it a 3-dimensional cube. A 3-dimensional cube adds an extra dimensional square that is entirely theoretical and likely cannot exist in our 3rd dimension to begin with. The lines are then connected and it becomes a 4D tesseract, as the term applies in physics. If you have seen the movie Interstellar, at the end of the film we see a representation of a 4th dimensional tesseract that is conceptually larger than the entire 3rd dimension. It is not just larger, but it contains every possible timeline and variant point in time from the very beginning of the universe to its final moment. For Goku to be 4th dimensional, he would not exist as a single point in our space-time, but would encompass every point, and to us in the 3rd dimension, Goku would appear as an infinitely large, shifting object that inverts and folds inward on itself infinitely, into impossible shapes from the very instant that time began to the very instant that time ends. He would be seen everywhere in the universe at the same time, and also in every time that is possible. Goku is not 4th dimensional in spatial geometry, and it is pure nonsense to say that he was, or that his attack power can transcend the 3rd dimension and become 6th dimensional. This simply is a misnomer used by scalers who don't know what dimensionality in physics and science actually is. A realm is also called a dimension. A different location is also considered as the term for dimension. However, scalers in this context use the word dimension to denote geometric spatial dimensionality, which no physical being can have more than 3 dimensions of. The counter-argument is that Goku exists in a higher dimension and casts a physics shadow onto the 3rd dimension that we see as the Goku we love, who works on a farm and who sleeps and eats. If this were merely a shadow, It would not need food or energy or air to survive. This is 100% debunked. The actual guides say that the mortal universe and the afterlife are measurable in size and can be comparable in distance and geometry, yet many scalers often leave these guides entirely out. They are also reconfirmed by video games such as Boo's Fury that says the afterlife is only a few million light years above the mortal realm, and that Snake Way is only 1 million kilometers long. King Kai himself explains that there is time and space in Otherworld, but that time is infinite there and doesn't ever run out. At no point was it ever stated to have no time at all. You may have seen these two maps before, but did you know that only one of them is an official guide map? Can you guess which one? The other one is from a game manual that is non-canon to the Dragon Ball saga and set up that way only to reflect the game board. So too, you see these images of the afterlife explanations tossed in scaling videos very often, that they say the other world is ethereal. However, these are from tabletop game board games that admit that this is not to be taken as hierarchical lore, and that it is just for fun and just for the game board dice roll. More so, often bad translations and fan mistranslations make it in to the Google search top results that look official but are not. One of these is not real, the other is. As a bonus, the World of Void translations do not say it is a complete void. It actually uses the kanji for empty, not void. Also, it says that it goes on for eternity, allowing physical things to move within it without ever reaching an end. An object cannot move for eternity and also not have any space or time around it. This is a paradoxical argument that poor knowledge of kanji scalers do not know exists. Gravity is quite real in the other world, as it was a main plot point of the story that Goku would train there under 10 times gravity, and that Goku's extra weighted armbands were very heavy to him. Beyond this, it was a core plot of the entire series that special fighters were allowed to train and keep their physicality in the other world, not that they were conceptual spirits. It is unethical to ignore this much data as a scaler, and anyone who does ignore it should never be trusted to relay accurate and unbiased information. Even the video games agree that Goku was allowed to keep his physical body. More so, Elder Kai was kept in the Z-Sword for 75 million years. If there's no time there, how was he kept here for a measured specific amount of time? More so, the Kais meet every 1,000 years for a gathering. On the topic of the mortal universe size for the Dragon Ball verse, just how big are the universes? Well, they are not infinite and are actually finite in size. As the guide says, they are ball-shaped, and even the show illustrates this and tells us they are actually finite. So too, there are only a handful of timelines that exist in the Dragon Ball's main canon. Whis explains that he can alter the past up to 3 minutes before a new timeline is created, and that there are less than 12 timelines for the entire Dragon Ball multiverse, composed of finite verses that have an end to them. This becomes a serious problem for scaling of Zeno and Goku, because Zeno is not a cosmological constant in the Dragon Ball multiverse, and exists as a separate individual in each timeline. Theoretically, there is only about a dozen Zenos that currently exist. You can make an argument that the non-canon Heroes game has the potential for infinite timelines, but the series at least. But even the video games have said that their context for infinite timelines only means infinite possibilities that do not exist yet. Once again, agreeing with Whis and confirming what he said. This means that it's possible for timelines to come to exist, but that only a finite number currently exist. On this topic, these timelines are contained in scrolls, and the scrolls are contained in a finite room that was said to explode if too many came to be. This debunks infinite universes and timelines for the Dragon Ball continuum. When Goku fought Beerus above Earth, their clashing of God Ki was explained by the Elder Kai to have a snowball effect that started out weaker and grows in strength and reality-breaking power over the course of time and distance over the universe. Their key energy waves were weaker at the source, but amplified the more they covered time and distance, eventually making it to the otherworld, which confirms what the guide said, that the otherworld is millions of light years above the localized mortal universe. Elder Kai says God Ki is weird and gets stronger over distance instead of losing intensity over time. This was further expanded on when Beerus and Champa fought in their battle, and reality breaks around them. For Goku to be anything but three-dimensional, we would have to include the idea that rice and food scales to boundless in the Dragon Ball series, as Goku requires food when he trains with King Kai. This is not a conceptual banana, and this is not a conceptual car. These are regular objects that exist the same way we do as three-dimensional people, the same way special fighters got to keep their physical bodies. Where does the cosmology of Dragon Ball scale, though? Spirits that transcend the mortal realm are capable of being sucked into machines and stored there on Earth. Just like the Ghostbusters movies, they are entirely energy and physics-based entities that aren't as solid as they were when they were alive. Remember, this was confirmed in Dragon Ball Super in the Arale arc, and that it was also confirmed in the Janemba movie with the soul machine that cleanses evil. We have uncovered that the Dragon Ball multiverse is composed of only 8 or so universes, and that only roughly 12 timelines exist. We know that the timelines do not get made in the main canon unless someone changes the past in a small way, as Whis put it. These universes are not infinite, they are confirmed as completely finite. In comparison, one sector of DC Comics' universe is overseen by one Green Lantern, which is larger than the entire spectrum of the DB-verse. We know this because Bulma could calculate how far Namek was from the Earth at 50% of the universe away from their current location. She was able to show the results on a small calculator, while the distance of the Green Lantern sector is unimaginably huge. By the way, there are over 7,000 regular Green Lanterns that oversee the populated areas of the universe. And as gravity spreads more planets and rocks and stars apart into the infinite universe vastness beyond, more Green Lantern sectors are generated. Lord Zeno is quite similar to Perpetua from DC Comics, who only exists in some timelines and who is not a cosmic constant. Epoch confirms in Justice League Odyssey that he does not know Perpetua, but that he exists in multiple points in time at once. So he journeys into timelines to see who this Perpetua character is, and finds that she's only existing in some of them and not all of them. Although, she did get a great shot off on his shoulder and injured him just before he could return back to the current timeline arc, with Perpetua unable to follow. In this parallel, Zeno seems very similar, as a new version of him will be created when a timeline is, in turn, created. This time aspect transcends Zeno. However, scalers often cite that time is irrelevant and not important in Otherworld, nor that it exists there, nor that it's meaningful, yet Zeno himself is infinitely beyond the scope of Otherworld, and he himself is infinitely below time. Where would you scale a fiction that only has 8 or so confirmed universes that are not each infinite in physical size? Where would you scale a fiction that was confirmed to only have roughly 12 timelines in total? And where would you scale a fiction with the strongest being in the franchise confirmed to be able to be split off by a new variant every time a new timeline is created? The world of Dragon Ball is very low on the fictional scaling tier, despite being a major part of my life that I dedicated to it. The unbiased eye looms above, watching and waiting for anybody to mislead others and to post subjective explanations for facts that were confirmed in multiple guidebooks, encyclopedias, and in multiple games that are connected to the Dragon Ball franchise. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please drop a like and make sure to subscribe. It means a lot to me if you would support my channel in any way possible. Thanks for watching, and remember, even when all hope is lost, even in the middle of the great darkness itself, there is always a light, somewhere and in some time. You just have to look for it without your eyes, and instead with your mind.